Hey guys! So our Chapel's program today, we're going to be talking about one of the fruit of the Spirit called self-control. I'm sure you guys know all the fruits of the Spirit, so we sing a song about it.
The fruit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control.
And the very thing we're going to be talking about today, self-control. Now before I get into it, I just have a little fun balloon illustration I want to do for you guys. Alright, so balloon number 1. As you guys can see, this balloon is completely free. It can go anywhere and to anyone. It can go in any direction. It has no boundaries, right? There we go, it's floating away. Alright, we're gonna hit balloon number 1 away. Balloon number 2 is pretty blue balloon, as you can see, is tied to a string. Now it still has freedom to float around and go up and down, side to side, but I can control where it goes, right? If it floats off too far away from me, I can pull it back. So it's still free, but it does have a bit more boundaries. Right. Bye bye balloon number 2. Now balloon number 3 is tied to a Bible. Now this balloon is still free to float around, it can float up and down, it can float from side to side, but because it's tied to a string and because it's tied to a Bible, this balloon is more grounded. It's more kind of solidified in its balloon life that it's gonna go on to live. Alright. Thank you, balloons. In life, we can be a lot like one of these balloons, or maybe all of them. It doesn't matter what age you are, whether you're in prep, in year 6, in high school, even if you're an adult like myself, one of your teachers, Pastor Pauline, or even your parents. It is part of our human nature to do what we want, to go where we want to go, and to get what we want to get. And most of the time, the easy thing to do is to do what we want. But what we want to do may not always be the right thing to do. Imagine this. You have some homework to do and your brother or sister is doing the very same homework. They finish before you and they leave their answers right in front of you. While they're watching TV or playing a game, you sneakily think to yourself, if I just quickly copy their work, I can also be done and I can go watch some TV and join in on the game also. The easy way, of course, is to do exactly that. But is it the right thing to do? What about this one? Now I know you guys are all grown up, so this could never be you, but I'm sure we've all been there. As toddlers, we all would have wanted something that we couldn't have, whether it was a cookie in a cookie jar, a bar of chocolate, the newest toy, the nicest pair of shoes. If we didn't get what we wanted, we would chuck a fit, have ourselves a good old cry, and throw a tantrum. Now believe it or not, but even as growing little humans, both you and myself as a growing adult, all wrestle and struggle with this thing called self-control. Did you guys know that our sense of self-control is tested nearly every single day? It's crazy to think about, but it's true. Whether it's doing our homework the right way, choosing a healthier food option to eat, motivating ourselves to go outside and get active, spending less time on our iPads or laptops, and even not getting upset when things don't go our way. All of these things and so much more constantly test our self-control and our willingness to not just do what we want, but to do what is right. Now, it's all well and good to have self-control when it comes to not eating the cookie in a cookie jar or going outside instead of being a couch potato. But how good are we at maintaining our self-control when it comes to relating to others? Relating to our friends and each other, whether it's in our classrooms, outside on the playground, or even now while you're at home, having self-control when it comes to how we speak to those around us and treat one another is extremely important. When someone gets mad at us or says something that isn't very nice, the easiest thing to do is to get mad also and to say something even worse back to them. If someone nudges us or makes fun of us and just won't stop annoying us, what do you think our natural instinct is to do? The exact same thing, to get payback, to get revenge, to fight back. And you guys all know the saying, an eye for an eye. Now again, this is the easy thing to do. It's the easy way out. Having and practicing self-control when people don't always treat us the way we want to be treated, however, is a completely different story. A story that goes something like this. Alright, so I want you guys to close your eyes and I want you to take your minds way, way, way back to the 5th century BC Bible times. And I want you to keep your eyes closed until you can begin to imagine being in a big, golden, beautiful Persian palace. Look around you and see big, long, perfect satin curtains falling down from the ceiling and red Persian rugs facing the walls. It's quite a scene, isn't it? Our main character in the story is a guy named Nehemiah, but we're going to call him Neh Neh for short. Neh Neh in the beginning of the story is actually in exile and is working for a king as his cupbearer. One day, whilst doing his usual cupbearing duties, Neh Neh receives a message from one of his brothers telling him about the terrible condition that his hometown, Jerusalem, and God's city is in. The city walls have been torn down and have been destroyed by fire. Now, I don't know about you guys, but if I had received a message like this from my sister in my hometown back in New South Wales, I probably would have freaked out. I would have been so scared and so worried, and I would have had a million questions as to why, how, who, where, and when did this all happen? Neh Neh's reaction, however, is completely the opposite. Now, don't get me wrong, Neh Neh is upset. Jerusalem is his hometown and it's God's holy city and had just been destroyed. But instead of worrying and complaining or getting upset and asking a million questions, Neh Neh's first reaction is to pray. Now I want you guys to take note of this because Neh Neh actually does quite a lot of praying in this story and at the weirdest of times too. Straight after praying, Neh Neh goes and speaks to the king, his boss man, tells him all about the terrible condition that Jerusalem, his hometown, is in and asks him if he can go back to rebuild the walls. The king, being the kind man that he is, grants Neh Neh permission to go back to Jerusalem, gives him a passport, some essential supplies and anything else he needed to go and rebuild the city wall. So Neh Neh arrives in Jerusalem, and arriving also on the scene are our 3 bullies, Sanballat, Tobiah and Geshem. Now these 3 guys, when they heard about Neh Neh's plans to come and rebuild the city walls, they were angry. They did not want Jerusalem to be rebuilt. They immediately questioned Neh Neh's motives and even questioned his position of authority to be rebuilding the wall. Scoffingly, Sanballat says,
"What are you doing? Are you rebelling against the king?"
Now instead of replying back with attitude and fighting the questions, Neh Neh places God in the picture, remembers his mission and purpose, and doesn't entertain the negative attitude of Sanballat. So Neh Neh goes on rebuilding the wall with a team of priests and Jewish families. Neh Neh and all these people continue to work on the wall. They use beams, bolts, gates, wood, and all these supplies to keep building the wall. They build and build and build until you can see a considerable amount of progress being made. But the more they built, the angrier these 3 bullies grew. Sanballat got so angry one day, he became completely enraged and he started insulting Neh Neh and those working on the wall. Sanballat says this,
"What a bunch of poor, feeble Jews. What do they think they're doing? Do they really think they're going to be able to rebuild this wall from its ruins? It looks like a heap of rubbish."
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Can we please just pause here for a moment?
Fam, hold up.
Poor, feeble, calling our work a heap of rubbish. Then, get this right, some of his friends even join in and say this,
"That wall would collapse even if a fox ran across the top of it."
Now please, tell me, where did this fox come from? What are these guys going on about? Now, these are not the strongest of insults, that this game was a bit weak, but nonetheless they kept up the opposition and they would not stop. Now remember how I told you guys that Neh Neh would do something every time that these three bullies would try and get him to crack or try and get him to respond in a negative way. What would Neh Neh do? He would pray. Pray, Neh Neh, pray. And that is exactly what Neh Neh did. These three bullies tried absolutely everything to get Neh Neh to crack. They threatened to attack Neh Neh and those working on the wall. They wrote letters to him to try and get him to meet them in a forest so they could kill him. They even got a bunch of false prophets to try and get him to flee the city so they could ambush him. They did everything in their power to intimidate, discourage, and stop Neh Neh from finishing the wall. But each and every time they would get angry, they would yell out their insults, they would say mean things, and they would try to distract the people and even threaten to kill them. What would Neh Neh do? He would pray. It took Neh Neh and the people of Israel a whole 52 days to complete building the walls of Jerusalem. But though the opposition of the three bullies made it difficult, Neh Neh and those rebuilding the wall remained determined with the help of God and practiced having self-control. Alright, Proverbs chapter 25 verse 28 tells us this. A person who does not control his temper is like a city whose wall is broken down. Now, if you guys remember early on in the story, this wall was completely destroyed. It was torn down. And as I was telling you guys the story, I slowly began to build it up, right? So if you guys don't have self-control, you're basically like these building blocks being sprawled all over the place, right? In another verse, we're told in Proverbs chapter 16, verse 32, we're told that patience is better than power and controlling one's emotions is better than capturing a city. I'm sure we can all agree that it doesn't feel good when someone makes fun of something we're trying to make or do. It can be hard to stay motivated and keep doing what we're doing and not fight back. When someone makes us angry, it's easy to get mad too and say something even worse to them. But the right thing to do is to practice self-control. If Neh Neh had fought back the three bullies, war probably would have started. If Neh Neh had gotten angry, he would have clouded his mind, his thinking, and he probably wouldn't have kept remembering to keep God in the picture and constantly ask him for protection and direction. Talking to God helped Neh Neh deal with the troublemakers. Talking to God can also help us know what to do when we're tempted to get mad at someone. The best thing to do when we're tempted to fight back and to lose our sense of self-control is to pray.